Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general mid-month reading for the sign of Leo, Sun, Moon and Ascendant for the last 2 weeks of October. Now it's going to be a bit shorter than the main monthly reading because it's just covering that 2-week period from the 15th to the 31st. And I'm going to try not to pull any clarifiers for this reading because I like to try and keep them a little bit shorter, and I could be here all day otherwise. So I'm going to change the format a little bit this month, just because I don't feel like the mid-months are really, I don't know, they don't fit with the way that I like to read quite so much as they could do. So usually I would pull 3 cards for your current energy, 3 cards for what's coming towards you, and then 3 cards for advice. And actually, you know, what's coming towards you isn't really important at this point. What is important is making the best use of the energy that you are in at the moment in order to approach whatever's coming in, you know, at a later point. And I do address that in the main monthly readings anyway, so I don't really see the point of going over it again. So what I propose instead is that middle row now becomes a looking for the lesson, right? What is the lesson that is to be found in the energy that you are feeling at the moment, right? It's kind of like a point of introspection. I feel like, as you know, my style of reading and my particular ethos and my raison d'etre of, you know, introducing you all to your shadow, it feels like a much more suitable way of reading for you. So that's what we're going to go with. I'm reading with the Bonestone again for you this month. You're the only sign who keeps having this one pop up. So obviously there's a Leo connection here, which I like. So let's have a look and see. This deck is quite thick. I have 3 cards for Leo's current energy, please. Here's the first one. We've got the 3 of Cups. We've got the 7 of Wands. And one more card for Leo's current energy, please. That's the one. What is it? It's the 10 of Swords, but it's in reverse. That's interesting. Let's see what's at the bottom of the deck here. Got the 5 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, followed by Temperance, which is the card of Sagittarius, and then the Emperor, which is the card of Aries. And this is interesting because I had a feeling about this reading as soon as the 7 of Wands came out, and it's just borne out by what I'm seeing here. So this 5 of Pentacles, you know, traditionally it talks about lack, it talks about poverty of some type, right? Now that can be financial, but it can also be, you know, anything that constitutes a resource to you. So that could be, you know, your time, your care, your effort on things, right? But in the Bonestone, we've got a family and they're kind of snuggling down here, right? Now, I quite often say that this is a card of your basic needs not being met in some way, right? And I think that, Leo, you have understood that there are parts of your life that could do with a bit of refinement, a bit of honing in some way, you know? And this might be the people that you're spending your time around, it might be the things that you're spending your time on, it might be the amount of time that you are allowing other people to take from you that you actually could be spending on doing something a little bit more practical and a little bit more useful for you, right? I say this because we've got Temperance and the Emperor here, right? There's your sister fire energy, sisters in fact, because we've got Aries and Sagittarius there, right, backing you up. That's an awful lot of fire. What's coming through really, really strongly, Leo, is that there's something is building in you. There is a need to move. There is a need to act, but it is being tempered with your fixed sign kind of wisdom, such that the Aries and Aries and Sagittarius aren't always blessed with. You know, they're moving kind of for the sake of it a lot of the time. Whereas Leo will only move, like the lion that's hunting, will only move when there's a point to it. And it feels like there's something that's building, there's something that some seed that has taken root in your mind somewhere, and you're waiting for the point to act, but it's not yet here, and you know that it's not yet here. We've got, you know, the hourglass here with Temperance. Oh, look at this Emperor. I love this. It feels like you're being guided Right? There's a notion of being guided by the wisdom of your ancestors or those who have gone before, your soul family, maybe even, you know, that is not here in the 3D. It's like you're getting ready for war, Leo, is quite honestly the point. And it's really funny, I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and I won't bother going into the context of it, but the exact words that I used were something like along the lines of, you know, I am a walking version of Sun Tzu's Art of War. Right? I know it is better not to act rashly, but sometimes just, you know, sit back and observe and wait. And this is the energy that I'm getting off this reading. So this is obviously not a me thing. This is a Leo collective thing. Like, we are biding our time because we know it is not yet time to move. If we did move, we're either going to fall at the first hurdle, or there's a possibility of just wearing yourself out before it's time, before it's ready, you know. I really, really like that combination. I should just add that the card underneath that was the Devil as well. And I feel like this really does feed into this notion of waiting, right? Waiting. Because now is not the right time. The thing is, there's something very protective about this whole reading. Because it's not about you, Leo, it's about other people. That's what's coming through, right? You can see this happening somewhere around you, and whether it's, you know, literally people losing their houses or not having enough food, or whether it's, you know, emotional poverty, whether it is, you know, people being living in fear, right? Which is what the Devil talks about, but it's also what's written all over the faces of these people here. You see it and you want to act on it, but you know that now is not the right point to do it, right? That wisdom is keeping you held in a prone position right now. You're watching, you're observing, you are not acting. Now, to add, you know, extra weight to this, we've got the Three of Cups here, and this is my card of emotional support networks, right? See three women and they're all dancing around a cauldron. Getting very witchy indeed. Actually, I really like this depiction actually, because usually they're just holding cups, but I think it's under no illusions that these are witches here, right? Your community is really, really important to you. And I think some of you have been in quite a strong hermit mode for quite a few months now. And I feel like part of what you are doing, part of what forms your observation, is coming out of that hermit mode and starting to kind of re-engage with people in a way that you haven't done for a while. Because then here we have more of this kind of warlike energy. We've got the Seven of Wands, which is defensive, guarded energy, but it feels protective for me. You know, like you are getting ready to protect and defend those who need it, because you know. I mean, look at her, man. We should leave it over the back of there. Like, she's just going to have anybody who comes anywhere near it. And then we've got this Ten of Swords. Now, it's perhaps one of the most visceral depictions of a Ten of Swords that I've ever seen. And this being picked clean by crows. But it's come out in the reverse for you. This way around, it talks about being, you know, effectively left for dead. It's a card of the rock bottom. Interestingly, there's often an element of hope depicted in the Ten of Swords, like, you know, the head of the body is kind of turned towards the horizon and the sun is starting to rise there, you know, like it's always darkest before the dawn. This just seems dark. It's just dark. There is no hope. But this feels like what you are trying to do, or what you have it in mind to do, is to prevent this coming through, right? That's why it's inverted. Pull another card for that. There is no hope in that card, in the upright. No, it is done, it is finished, it is ended. There is something that you are readying for that will prevent this, you know, stop this end coming to fruition. Right, that Ten of Swords, please. for a lot of you, I feel like you've lost your faith in outside institutions. Right? I think that as a collective, Leos are not putting their faith, hope and trust in anything outside of them. And I shall explain for why. Because we've got 4 cards that came out. The first one in the upright was the Chariot. The other 3 have come out in the reverse. Right? We've got the 5 of Swords, the 2 of Swords and the Hierophant. Now this is fascinating because, not least because it's a whole clutch of cards coming out in reverse, and I don't often get reverse cards because of the way that I shuffle. But this is the card of the self, right? That's a given here for me, right? And if you've ever seen any of my videos before, I actually say that this speaks to me a lot of shadow work. Because the Charioteer forms that point of integration between these 2 polarities here, the light and the shadow. What the fuck? Just ignore that. The light and the shadow, you know, night and day, you know, negative and positive, all of these things. But the shadow, which is you know, a part of ourselves that we choose not to engage with wherever possible, for the sake of preserving our own egos, right? It actually controls our actions quite a lot, and it makes us do, you know, fucking nutty things sometimes, all in under the guise of trying to protect us, right? Trying to stop us from putting our neck above the parapet too much, or, you know, doing something that might end up with us being rejected or in some other way, you know, damaged, right? It tends to be quite a childish response, and I mean that in the nicest possible way, like a childlike response, because it tends to stop a certain age, right? And then it forms quite strongly there, and then as you get out into the world, what you tend to do is just kind of entrench its position, rather than, you know, opening up a dialogue and saying, hello inner child, why are you frightened? Let's talk about this. Right? Crash 101, shadow work there. But here you are, opening up a dialogue with yourself, with your shadow, with this dark place here that you want to avoid. And I feel like this is really interesting. It feels like you are working on yourself, and almost certainly to raise the collective kind of unconscious, or collective connection to the unconscious, right? In order that you might stop this, where there is no hope and there is no dawn, you know. There's not even really any sense of the potential for resurrection, because that flesh is gone, you know. Whatever might be resurrected from that probably wouldn't be worth bothering with, right? You are going within, you are going deep, and you are looking within yourself for the answers, and you are getting ready to go forwards in victory, right? Because what we've got then is this whole clutch of reversed cards. Now, the 5 of Swords in the upright is a card that speaks of instability, right? It's change, uncomfortable change quite often. Where the 4 is foundational energy, the 5 is that energy that comes along and blows everything up that you've tried to do, right? It doesn't just do it for shits and giggles, there's a point to it, but nevertheless. For me, the most stabilizing thing that you can do with that is turn it upside down. Right? So what was unstable now becomes stable. When you combine it with these 2 cards here, it feels like you are fixing instability within yourself. And because it's swords, we're talking about words, we're talking about communications, whether they are internally or externally expressed. So how you speak to people, how they speak to you, or how you think inside your head. And this is very internal, right? This is to do with you. You are fixing things in your patterns of thinking inside your head that are, if not exactly toxic, then certainly poisoned in some way. And I'm not saying that you're a bad person. What I'm saying is the way that you have thought about yourself for a very long time is actually now starting to appear to be wrong to you. Everybody else has known that it was wrong, right? And Leos get such a bad rap for being, you know, selfish and self-absorbed and all that kind of thing. And frankly, I think that's a very lazy interpretation of the Leo energy. And certainly it does not in any way properly express the sense of responsibility that is innate within Leo, right? It really isn't. It certainly doesn't speak to the struggle, certainly with self-esteem and self-confidence and all of these kind of things. Just because you can fake it doesn't mean that it's actually true. You know, I think that you're beginning to identify where those patterns are not only limiting you, but also potentially limiting the collective, right? So when you get into shadow work and when you get into, you know, raising vibrations collectively, which feels like what it is that you're doing here, you only really need to look around and see what is damaged in the people around you, and then kind of look within, and that feels like what you're doing here. Now, these two are really interesting too, because this is like a refusal to act. It's a refusal to think something. It's a refusal to make a decision about something, because she is blindfolded. She's got her back to the moon. She's got her back to the water. She is not considering her emotions. She doesn't want to fucking know about it, right? It's yet another card that says to me that you are now exploring all aspects of your psyche, right? You're not ignoring anything anymore, and you are getting ready to act. The funny thing is, with this Hierophant in reverse, right? These are institutions, these are established structures around you. So, you know, it could be everything from the institution of marriage. It could be, you know, your family structure. It tends to come with a sense of authority as well, though. So to that end, we can start seeing it as being, you know, wider societal structure. And frankly, I don't know about you, but I feel like it's in free fall at the moment. I think that what the astrologers were predicting for years and years and years was the fall of the patriarchy in 2020. And I think that we are seeing that happen. Now, destabilization is, by definition, kind of shaky ground. And I think that you, certainly more than any of the other signs I have read for this month, seem to understand what is going on. And this is why you don't move right now. Like you are working on yourself. You're putting all of your effort internally, but you are paying attention. You are watching. You are observing. Because at some point, it'll be time for you to spring. And that point is not yet now, right? So it's like you're doing what you can with you, because you know that it will bear fruit later on with other people. Right, let's have a look at this point of introspection and see what this energy is all about for you. I mean, I feel like we might have just nailed it, but you know, Justice. Oh shit, not really a surprise to see that there. More card for Leo, please. What's the lesson here? What's that down there? Eight of Cups. Wow, it's amazing. Okay, so the very bottom card, the shadow card, is the moon. You know, it's the other card of shadow work here. It's about the things that are hidden within, and there's such a sense of power with this. You know, there's I love it actually. Normally when you see the moon, there's something really quite sinister about the depiction. You've got the two towers, and you've got, you know, the dog and the wolf indicating, you know, like the tame and the wild part of you, and then you've got that like crayfish scuttling out of the water. You know, it's a dark and sinister scene, and it kind of puts you on edge a little bit, right? And it's all about secrets and illusions and things that are hidden from you. Right? But this is something entirely different. Right? Here is a woman, a witch, I would assume, communing with the moon there, right? She is in conversation with that moon. She's swirling around in the water. That water that, you know, in this card, people are refusing to acknowledge is there. Right? Not even looking at the moon here. No, don't want anything to do with that. Ignoring intuition, ignoring emotional inputs, right? And refusing to act. This is the polar opposite, right? Her face is raised to the moon. She is in dialogue with that lunar energy. She's in with the water, but also look at the butterflies in her hand, right? Those symbols of transformation right there. Because you are doing the work, because you are getting in touch with that side of yourself, because you are thoroughly immersing yourself in it and finding that which is needing to be transformed. Like, you're completely releasing yourself. It's liberation, emotional liberation, actually. So the lesson here, 7 of Pentacles, the Justice card right in the center of the fucking reading, and the 8 of Cups. This is fascinating. Now, the 7 of Pentacles is usually, for me, a card that speaks of dissatisfaction in some way with your status quo, right? And usually the message is that you're sort of taking the time, you're stopping and you're looking at whatever situation is kind of pissing you off, and you're going, right, is it pissing me off because I'm not putting enough energy in? Or is it pissing me off because I haven't put enough energy in it? Which one is it? Do I want to commit to this more? Am I done with it, right? That's what the 7 of Pentacles usually says to me. But this depiction here, it's this little kid, this penknife, is really carefully extracting mushrooms out of the ground, right? I think there's something intrinsically female about mushrooms. I don't know why. It might be the way that they reproduce. I don't know. But they feel feminine to me. And this kid is very carefully cutting these mushrooms out of the ground. Yeah? And so the usual interpretation of this card doesn't seem to apply to me. You know, with the mushrooms, we've got that sense of the dark implied again, you know? And it feels like you getting down into the dirt and picking these things that actually are, you know, going to be really useful. And we don't know what they do with these mushrooms. Maybe it might be making them into a soup, you know, a nice risotto. Or maybe it's going to dry them out and, you know, have an incredible trip. Look at the interesting colours in the background here. You don't know. But there's something what's the word I'm looking for? There's something horizon broadening about mushrooms and the use of psychedelics. Here's an interesting fact for you. In the centennial version of the Rider-Waite, the Moon card, which we all know and love, right, has something depicted on it that you don't usually see on it, right? The thing is, you don't usually see it because of the way that it is now colorized, and it never used to be colored that way, but it is now. Let me just find this Moon card so I can show you. I actually want a copy of the Centennial deck simply because of this. Where the fuck is this card? Sorry, I hope you don't mind us having a little chat while we're here. Right, here we are. So, here is the Moon card in the Rider-Waite. This is the Universal Rider-Waite. It's been recolored like 1 billion times. Now, at the bottom of this, you can see these leaves here by the bank of the river. In the Centennial, they are mushrooms. Actual proper mushrooms, right? And this is what I'm put in mind of here, and it's astonishing. We should have already had the Moon come out, and then we got this chap getting down into the ground, digging something out that is associated with, you know, the dark. You grow mushrooms in the dark, you know? You have to get really down dirty to the ground level to find these things. It's about observing. You need to observe closely. You are observing closely, but you need to do it more. Not just what's going on around you, but also what is going on within yourself, because you are in a process of transition at the moment, right? You are shifting, and Leo, this has been a process for you that's been going on almost all, well, actually for fucking years. We're at 3 years now, but it's been picking up this year, you know? And it's like every shift, they're getting more and more subtle. You know, we went from tower energy in summer 2017. You know, it happened to a lot of Leos. Just stop, right? Life ruined. Everything you ever wanted taken away from you. And you were called upon to transform then. And you did, and it was painful and it hurt. You know, we resisted it quite a lot too. over time, and particularly specifically over this year, what has happened is these transformations are coming thick and fast, and they're getting so much more subtle as you are becoming more sensitive, more attuned, more in line with everything. It's almost like completely unnoticeable by anybody outside of you, but you know what is going on inside, right? And so your focus is going down and down and down into the smaller and smaller things. But the thing with mushrooms is, like, that's not one mushroom plant there, right? The whole field full of mushrooms is one organism. You have an understanding of how things are connected now, right? So you coming down here and observing this means that you are now in tune with what is going on with the rest of the mushroom plant all over the fucking field. It's becoming attuned. Then we've got this Justice card here. And this too, I feel, is a process of attunement, alignment almost. I love the depiction in this because it gives it speaks to me of the different sides of justice, that it is possible to have harsh, almost kind of like a vigilante justice. No, that's not the word I'm looking for. Physical, like there's a physical justice here. Right? There's a woman dressed for war with a bow. Yeah. She's ready to take down people, who would do her ill. She is ready to fight. But then we have this softer, gentler justice that is kind of, dressed in diaphanous robes and is carrying in her hand this plant that's growing out of her hand, These two sides of justice. You own them both now, Leo. Right? You have the wisdom of experience, hard fought, hard won experience, but also this gentle strength, this gentle experience. Yeah, it's like the woman with the lion in the Strength card. Those two sides of you. It feels like the Chariot card, right? But we're talking justice here. We're talking about high notions of fairness and truth. And then we've got this Eight of Cups. I love this Eight of Cups, right? We're not seeing somebody, fucking off under the light of the moon to go and find the ninth cup. This is something much more subtle than that. We've got somebody stood in front with a lamp, and we've got boats following behind. This is you, Leo, right? You're getting ready to light the way for those who are lost in the fog. That's why you are where you are at the moment. But that light, it emanates from within you, You may charge yourself up by the light of the moon, but you have a way of putting that light outside of yourself and giving it to the world to follow. That's beautiful. I love that. Right, let's have a look at some advice, because I've been waffling on for a whole 28 minutes. I don't know how I do that. Right, and some advice for Leo, please. These cards are absolutely stunning. So, for advice, we've actually got 4 cards when I only wanted 3, but that happens all the time, so, whatever. This 3 of Swords is utterly amazing. Right, now. You've got an incinerated heart in someone's hand with new growth sprouting out of it. And this is interesting because what it puts me in mind of immediately is Phoenix energy, right? And it's interesting that this has been coming up for Pisces as well. I don't know, like maybe you might have Pisces in your chart, but there's some sort of connection with Pisces and Leo that I haven't really quite worked out yet. Leo's been coming up in Pisces reading every single reading I've done for the entire year, without fail. That Leo is always showing up, or that Leo energy at least is showing up. But it feels like the ways in which you have incinerated yourself and then come back, right? Doing it over and over and over again, this phoenix energy rising, right? It's like, this is what's been happening to you for over 3 years now. And I think for most of you that you understand that that's what this is. And I wouldn't say it's exactly become second nature, but there's a lot less resistance to it than there was initially when that first tower energy hit. It's become a reflective process. And for me, this particular Three of Swords seems to be talking about the transmutation of pain into something, you know, beautiful, something that can give life. And I think that that is something that Leo is very good at, is taking their own personal pain, right? Processing it, working through it for the collective, not just for themselves, but then being able to guide others in that situation, right? And this, the way that this heart is incinerated, right? Your heart has incinerated over and over again, but it contains that essential life force, that vitality that comes from being ruled by the sun. So you can take it, right? You can literally be stripped down to nothing, which is how a lot of us felt like we were treated by the universe, you know, 2017, 2018. And we can come back, right? Not only can we come back, but we can sprout new things from it. Can sprout into a tree, indeed, you know, something that other people can lean on. It talks about fertility and abundance, this tree, but this Empress card. But we have butterflies here again. And we have a pregnant woman who is the tree. Is that sense of connectedness again. Like everything is connected. You are connected to everything else. What you fix for you, you fix for the collective. Right? The transformation again. Phoenix energy. The last two cards of advice came out together. And then the Nine of Swords and the Hermit. And this is really valuable. Really, really valuable advice, because what's been coming up really strongly for all of the readings that I've done is shadow work. Everybody needs to be doing shadow work at the moment. Now, you have been doing it, I can see that, right? We've had a lot of conversation about this already. And just to let you know, the shadow readings are underway. I am working on them right now. They'll be up by Halloween. But this is pointing out to you that anything that scares you, anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, that is where you need to go digging, right? Because that's where the answers are for you. You know, we have all the tools to fix ourselves in the places we don't want to look, right? The Nine of Swords represents anything that puts you on edge, anything that makes you feel frightened, anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, anything that makes you feel shame or disgust or any of these things, right? This is your flag. Whenever this rises at you, that's where you need to stop and reflect. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned it, but we're in Mercury retrograde in Scorpio at the moment, right? This energy is perfectly primed for you to go deep and pull that stuff out. Retrograde energy is nothing to be frightened of, unless you are frightened of looking within you, and I don't think that you are, Leo. So use this energy while it's here and dig deep. Dig really, really deep, because the wisdom of what was just coming out of my mouth there was the wisdom of the ancients is sitting within you. You just need to access it. Or maybe it is. Maybe it is the wisdom of the ancients. Maybe it is the wisdom of your ancestors. But this is the second card that has made me feel specifically like you are being guided by, you know, some sort of family line. It don't have to be your blood family, you know, it's some sort of soul family line. You are being guided right now. And and it feels like this is what's happening. If they are sending people into your way who are making you react in a certain sort of way, right? That's because they're trying to make this rise because when this rises and you stop and you go and look at it, then you know where to look for the wisdom. I hope this makes sense. Fucking hell, Leo, like this is like pretty deep. Between you and Pisces, absolutely kicked my ass with these readings. So I'm going to leave it there. If this has made any sense to you whatsoever, resonated at all, I would love it if you would like the video or consider subscribing. But otherwise, know that I love you all, and I'll see you very soon.